Caroline Watson smiled gently at the elderly man across the counter while checking the prescription. As a pharmacist in the small town of Lincoln Hill, she knew many of the local residents by name. "Mr. Johnson, do you understand how to take your medication?" After the old man nodded, Caroline confirmed she had 10 minutes left until the end of her shift and glanced out the window. On this chilly October afternoon, the trees were beginning to change color, their leaves swaying in the wind. She planned to pick up her daughter Lily from piano lessons today. The phone rang at that moment. Lincoln Hill Pharmacy, Caroline Watson speaking. The voice on the other end was from St. Joseph's Hospital, saying it was her mother Eleanor's doctor. Caroline suddenly felt a tightness in her chest. "Ms. Watson, I'm sorry to inform you that your mother's condition has taken a turn for the worse. Could you come to the hospital as soon as possible?" Caroline put down the phone feeling numb. Eleanor had been hospitalized for pneumonia treatment a few days ago but was supposed to be recovering. Her mother had always been a healthy, active woman. "Jeff, I have an emergency. Can I leave early?" she called to her colleague. "Of course, go ahead. Take care." Caroline quickly gathered her things and called Lily's school. She needed to cancel the piano lesson and have her daughter wait at school. Her 7-year-old was very understanding and worried about her grandmother. While driving, Caroline called her husband Victor. As an executive at a pharmaceutical company, he was supposed to be at a meeting in Chicago this week. Lately, his overseas business trips had been increasing, leaving him away from home more often. "This is Victor Watson. I can't take your call right now. Please leave a message." It was his voicemail. Caroline sighed. "Victor, it's me. Mom's condition has worsened, so I'm heading to the hospital right away. I'll pick up Lily too. Please call me back." Upon arriving at the school and explaining the situation, Lily immediately ran to her mother's side. Her long black braids swayed, and concern showed in her blue eyes. "Is Grandma okay?" "I don't know yet, Lily. But we're going to see her now." On the way to the hospital, Lily sat quietly, hugging her stuffed animal. Caroline squeezed her daughter's small hand. "Grandma will get better." Caroline had to admit that those words were meant to encourage herself as well. When they arrived at St. Joseph's Hospital, Dr. Harrison was waiting. The gentle doctor with graying hair led Caroline and Lily to a quiet place. "Ms. Watson, your mother's pneumonia has become severe, causing respiratory distress. She's currently on a ventilator in the intensive care unit." At the doctor's words, tears welled up in Caroline's eyes. "But what are her chances of recovery?" "There's certainly a possibility. However, she's currently in a coma. We're providing all possible treatment, but..." The doctor spoke carefully, choosing his words. Lily tugged at Caroline's sleeve. "Mom, I want to see Grandma." Dr. Harrison smiled kindly. "Of course you can. Just understand that your grandmother is in a deep sleep right now and can't talk." Walking through corridors filled with the smell of disinfectant, they arrived at the intensive care unit. In Eleanor's room, only the regular beeping of monitors broke the silence. Her once vibrant mother now lay quietly on white sheets. Her face was pale, her lips dry, with a ventilator tube extending from her mouth. Caroline took her mother's hand. It was cold, but there was definitely a pulse. "Mom, we're here. Lily's with me too." Lily approached her grandmother's bed and quietly held her hand. Strangely, she showed no signs of fear. Instead, she gazed directly at Eleanor's face, as if sensing something. "Grandma, can you hear me? Please get better." Lily's voice was small but steady. Caroline was surprised by her daughter's mature attitude, yet felt her heart constricting. The fear that her mother might never regain consciousness weighed heavily on her. A nurse entered quietly and checked Eleanor's vital signs. "Your mother is a strong person. She'll certainly get better, she said kindly. Caroline gazed at her mother's face and wept. Victor still hadn't called back, and she felt like she was bearing everything alone. Outside the window, the evening sky was beginning to turn red. Mom, don't cry, Lily gently stroked her arm. Grandma can hear our voices. I know it. Caroline was slightly comforted by her daughter's words and hugged her. No matter how difficult the days ahead might be, she had her beloved daughter. And her mother was still alive. She couldn't give up hope. 5 days had passed since Eleanor's hospitalization. The sound of cold October rain hitting the hospital window had become familiar to Caroline. With help from her pharmacy colleagues, she had adjusted her work schedule, spending mornings at work and afternoons at the hospital. Lily often spent time after school with her mother at the hospital. Good morning, Ms. Watson. Nurse Jennifer Clark entered Eleanor's room. She was a middle-aged black woman with a warm smile and gentle hands. For Caroline, Jennifer's presence had become a great source of support. Good morning, Jennifer. Any changes? Jennifer shook her head while beginning to check Eleanor's vital signs. No major changes. But her breathing might be a little easier than yesterday. Still, Eleanor remained in a coma. Caroline took her mother's hand and applied moisturizing cream to her dry skin while thinking. Contact from Victor had been minimal. He rarely came to the hospital, citing his busy work schedule. Even last night, when he finally called, the conversation was brief. My business trip has been extended again. I'm sorry, his voice sounded tired. How is Eleanor? No change. When can you come home? I think I can be back by the weekend. It's a crucial time for the company's new drug project. You understand, right? Caroline pretended to understand, but dissatisfaction was growing inside her. Married to Victor for 10 years, she thought she understood the importance of his work. However, this distance during a family crisis was creating small cracks in her heart. Would you like some tea? Jennifer offered. You should take a break. The two sat facing each other in the cafeteria. Victor can't come. Jennifer asked gently. He seems busy with work, Caroline smiled wryly. The pharmaceutical industry waits for no one. That must be hard. Don't try to handle everything by yourself. As an experienced nurse, Jennifer had seen many families suffering. Her eyes were kind, yet had a sharpness that seemed to see through things. How's Lily? Does she understand the situation? She's surprisingly calm. She's even encouraging me, Caroline smiled slightly. But sometimes she says strange things. Like what? She says, Grandma talks to me. Even though she's in a coma. Jennifer nodded silently. Children sometimes sense things that we adults can't perceive. Caroline shrugged. Lily has always had a vivid imagination. When they returned to the room, Lily had arrived from school and was reading a picture book at her grandmother's bedside. Mom, you're back, Lily looked up. I was reading The Three Little Pigs to Grandma. She can hear me. I'm sure she's happy about that, Caroline stroked her daughter's head. That evening, there was a knock at the door, and an unfamiliar young doctor entered. Are you Caroline Watson? I'm Dr. Parker. I'll be your mother's attending physician from today. He was in his early 30s, a man with an intellectual air. What about Dr. Harrison? He's being transferred to another hospital, he explained apologetically. I'm sorry for the sudden change. I've received all your mother's records. Dr. Parker continued while checking Eleanor's chart. Actually, I'd like to review your mother's treatment plan. I'm wondering if the current combination of medications is optimal. As a pharmacist, Caroline reacted sensitively to the doctor's words. What do you mean? The amount of sedatives being administered to your mother seems a bit excessive in my experience. With some adjustments, we might be able to hasten her recovery of consciousness. A small hope lit in Caroline's heart. Could you do that? Let's try a new prescription starting tomorrow, Dr. Parker smiled kindly. Please don't lose hope. That night, Caroline and Lily returned home exhausted. The old two-story house was where Eleanor used to visit every weekend to tend the garden before she fell ill. Lily, take a bath and then do your homework. Yes, Mom, Lily answered obediently. I'm going to make a charm for Grandma. While Caroline was preparing dinner, the house phone rang. She thought it might be Victor, but it was an unfamiliar woman's voice. Is Mr. Victor Watson there? My husband is away on business. May I ask who's calling? Oh, I'm sorry. This is customer service from the rental car company. There's an issue with Mr. Watson's credit card. What kind of issue? It's regarding a vehicle return at our Chicago branch. If he returns, could you ask him to call this number? After hanging up, Caroline felt something didn't quite add up. Victor was supposed to be in Chicago, so why would there be talk about returning a rental car? Telling herself it might be a misunderstanding due to fatigue, she headed to Victor's study. Opening the desk drawer, she found bundles of neatly arranged documents. Victor had always been meticulous. When she tried to check the business trip receipts, her eyes fell on a hotel receipt from New York, not Chicago. The date matched the period when Victor had claimed to be in Chicago. She began examining other receipts and noticed several instances where the locations in the past 3 months' travel records didn't match the destinations Victor had mentioned. Anxiety spread through her chest. Mom, I took my bath. Lily's voice brought Caroline back to reality. She quickly returned the documents to their original place and closed the drawer. Well done. Now, let's have dinner. At the dinner table, Lily suddenly said, Grandma told me. What did she tell you? That Dad is hiding something. Caroline nearly dropped her fork. Lily, Grandma can't talk right now. But I can hear her, Lily said with a serious expression. Grandma said to keep an eye on Dad. Caroline wanted to think her daughter's words were just a product of childish imagination. However, combined with the discrepancies in the receipts, she felt an uneasy shadow falling over her heart. The next afternoon, the hospital corridor was quiet. Outside the window, a cold breeze was swirling up the autumn leaves. On her way to the room, Caroline was thinking about the receipts she had found last night. She had called Victor in the morning, but he was in a meeting and their conversation was brief. His voice had seemed rushed. I'll definitely be back by the weekend, he promised. I'm worried about Eleanor too. Caroline wanted to believe him. During their 10 years of marriage, Victor had been a faithful husband. At least she thought so. But now, seeds of doubt had been planted in her heart. When she entered Eleanor's room, Dr. Parker had just finished his examination. Hello, Caroline. We started the new medication this morning. Your mother's respiratory condition is showing slight improvement. And her consciousness? Not yet, but we've adjusted the sedative dosage, so there might be changes in the coming days, he smiled kindly. Is Lily at school? Yes, but she plans to come here after school. After the doctor left, Caroline sat at Eleanor's bedside. Her mother's complexion seemed a little better. She took her mother's hand and spoke quietly. Mom, can you hear me? Lily says you talked to her. Is that true? Only the regular sound of the monitor answered. Caroline closed her eyes and exhaled deeply. Fatigue was overtaking her. At 3 o'clock, Lily rushed into the room. Mom! The teacher said I could leave early today. That's nice, Caroline smiled. I was planning to read you a book we borrowed from the library. Lily took off her coat and sat quietly next to Eleanor. She gazed at her grandmother's face for a while, then took her grandmother's hand in her small one. Lily, do you feel something? Caroline asked, half jokingly. Yes, Grandma seems better today, Lily answered with a serious expression. They spent some quiet time together. Caroline opened the book she had brought and began reading in a gentle voice. It was a story her mother used to read to her. Midway through, she heard Jennifer's voice from the hallway. Excuse me for a moment, Caroline stood up. Lily, stay with Grandma. While talking with Jennifer in the hallway, Caroline suddenly realized that Dr. Parker, who should have been on the afternoon shift, was nowhere to be seen. Where's Dr. Parker? He was called away urgently to see another patient, Jennifer answered. If you need anything, please let me know. As Caroline was about to return to the room, she heard Lily's voice. Mom! Come quick! She hurried back to the room. Lily was standing beside Eleanor's bed, looking up at her mother with a confused expression. What is it, Lily? Grandma says to look at her back. Lily's voice was small but clear. Caroline was momentarily speechless. Her daughter's serious expression made her hesitate. Lily, Grandma can't talk right now. But Mom, Lily insisted firmly. Grandma is saying it. To look at her back. She says it's very important. Caroline was skeptical. As a pharmacist with scientific thinking, she wasn't one to believe in such unexplainable phenomena. However, with her nerves on edge due to her mother's condition and her husband's suspicious behavior, she couldn't ignore her daughter's words. Can you check if anyone's in the hallway? Caroline asked Lily. While Lily was leaning out the door to check the surroundings, Caroline approached Eleanor's bed. Gently tilting her mother's body, she opened the back of the hospital gown. At first, nothing seemed unusual. But upon closer inspection, she noticed multiple small needle marks arranged in an unnatural pattern on Eleanor's back. They were injection marks. As a pharmacist, Caroline knew what injection marks from normal medical procedures looked like. These marks were clearly abnormal. Some were new, some slightly older. It was as if someone had been regularly injecting something. Lily, could you go to the nurse's station and ask Jennifer to come here? Caroline's voice was trembling. After Lily left, she examined her mother's back again. The needle marks were definitely there. They appeared to have been deliberately placed in positions that couldn't be medically explained. Dr. Parker's words came back to her. The amount of sedatives being administered to your mother seems a bit excessive in my experience. The door opened, and Jennifer entered. What's wrong? Lily came running. Jennifer, look at this, Caroline indicated her mother's back. These aren't injection marks from normal treatment. The nurse approached and carefully examined Eleanor's back. Her expression changed. This is not normal, Jennifer said quietly. We don't normally give injections in a patient's back like this. Can you call Dr. Harrison? Caroline asked. Dr. Harrison has been transferred, but... Jennifer hesitated. Should I contact Dr. Parker? No, Caroline answered immediately. Do you know where Dr. Harrison is? This is an emergency. Jennifer thought for a moment, then nodded. I understand. I'll try to contact him. 20 minutes later, Dr. Harrison appeared in the room. He hadn't completely left the hospital yet and had been organizing files in his office. Caroline quickly explained the situation and showed him Eleanor's back. The doctor observed the injection marks silently for a long time. His expression gradually darkened. This is unbelievable, he said tersely. What do you mean? Caroline's voice rose with tension. These injection marks cannot be explained by normal medical procedures, Dr. Harrison carefully chose his words. Especially this pattern and frequency. Are you saying something was being injected? That would be the reasonable conclusion, he answered with a grave expression. We need to check the medical records. Looking at the records, Dr. Harrison's brows furrowed even more. There's evidence that unprescribed medications were administered. Particularly suspicious entries in the nighttime records over the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, Caroline thought. That's around when Mom was first hospitalized for pneumonia. Ms. Watson, Dr. Harrison said with a serious expression. This may not be a medical accident but a deliberate act. We should contact the police. Caroline stood stunned. But who would? At that moment, a flash of insight struck her. Victor's suspicious behavior, his rare hospital visits, and Lily's words, "Dad is hiding something." I want to consult with another doctor, Caroline resolved. And get a detailed analysis of the drugs that were administered to my mother. I know a toxicology specialist, Dr. Harrison said. I'll contact them immediately. Lily quietly held her mother's hand. Mom, Grandma said, thank you for protecting us. Caroline embraced her daughter. A police officer was stationed at Eleanor's room, and medical staff access was strictly limited. Until the toxicology test results came back, no one was allowed to administer any new medication to her. Caroline stood by the window in Eleanor's room, looking down at the parking lot. She was waiting for Detective Lawrence Carter to arrive. He was a veteran detective with gentle but sharp eyes. Mr. Carter, Caroline greeted him. Have you found anything? We've made some progress, Detective Carter said in a quiet voice. After checking the hospital surveillance cameras, we found that almost every night for the past 2 weeks, someone has been entering your mother's room. During the late night, outside visiting hours. Who is it? Caroline's heart raced. We couldn't identify them clearly from the footage. The person always wore a hat and concealed their face, he continued cautiously. However, judging from the build and gait, it's definitely an adult male. Caroline bit her lip. Deep down, she sensed who this person might be. But she wanted confirmation. That's not all, Detective Carter opened his notebook. When we checked the hospital parking card records, your husband's card was used on nights when he claimed to be in Chicago. Caroline collapsed into a chair. But why? One more thing. Do you know a nurse named Ashley Bennett? Caroline shook her head. No, my mother's attending nurse is Jennifer Clark. Nurse Bennett works the night shift, and interestingly, she also suddenly took leave over the past 2 weeks. According to hospital records, she has been seen with your husband several times. The toxicology results, which arrived later, confirmed Detective Carter's suspicions. Eleanor's blood contained a powerful sedative that hadn't been prescribed. The drug could potentially be fatal if administered long-term. This could be attempted murder with indirect intent, Detective Carter said with a stern expression. Caroline was stunned. She couldn't understand why Victor would do such a thing. There might have been problems in their marriage, but to attempt murder. Could you place Lily with a friend and accompany us for a search of your home? Detective Carter's words brought Caroline back to reality. Jennifer offered to look after Lily. It's okay, Caroline, she said kindly. We'll keep Eleanor safe too. When they arrived at Caroline's house, the police were already waiting with a search warrant. She guided them to Victor's study. All of Victor's documents and important items are kept here. The police began a systematic search. Documents, computers, and drawer contents were checked one by one. Caroline stood in a daze, never imagining her life would take such a turn. Ms. Watson, a young officer called out. We found this. In his hand was a notebook discovered in the back of the safe. Caroline had never seen it before. Detective Carter opened the notebook and examined its contents. His expression gradually hardened. Ms. Watson, this notebook contains calculations about Eleanor's inheritance and notes about the perfect crime. Caroline took the notebook. It detailed her mother's hidden assets. She knew her mother was wealthy, but the amount surprised her. Victor had thoroughly investigated all of her mother's assets and even made inheritance plans. "Ms. Watson, this is," Detective Carter showed another document. "A New York real estate contract. In your husband's name and a woman named Ashley Bennett." All the pieces fell into place. Victor had been trying to gradually poison her mother to get her inheritance. And the plan was to start a new life with his lover. The next day, when Victor returned from Chicago, he was detained at the airport. In the interrogation room, Caroline met with her husband just once. "Why?" That was all she asked. Victor's expression had crumbled. Gone was his once confident demeanor, now sat an exhausted middle-aged man. "There was a time when I loved you," he said in a low voice. "But after meeting Ashley, everything changed. She understood my talents. And with Eleanor's assets, we could have a new life. You tried to kill my mother." Caroline's voice shook with anger. "She's nearly 70. She wouldn't have much time anyway. I was just hastening it a little." Victor's excuse was feeble. "I will never forgive you," Caroline said quietly. "I'll make sure your crime is clear in court." As the interrogation proceeded, Victor fell apart. Ashley was also arrested, and she too confessed. The two had planned to target her mother's assets, using Ashley's nursing knowledge to gradually weaken Eleanor using methods difficult to detect. The evidence was overwhelming: surveillance camera footage, toxicology results, notebook contents, and finally, confessions. Caroline returned to the hospital and sat at her mother's bedside. Eleanor was still in a coma, but now that the suspicious drug administration had stopped, the doctors began to hold hope for recovery. "Mom," Caroline took her mother's hand. "It's going to be okay now. The people who tried to hurt you have been caught. So please, wake up." Lily quietly entered the room. "Mom, Grandma is listening," she smiled. "She says she'll wake up soon." Caroline embraced her daughter. 6 months later, spring sunshine brightened the streets of Lincoln Hill. In Eleanor's garden, tulips and daffodils were blooming gloriously, regaining their former beauty. Caroline stood by the window, watching her daughter and mother tending to flowers in the backyard. Eleanor had made a miraculous recovery. Once the poisoning stopped and she received proper treatment, she regained consciousness 2 weeks later and steadily recovered her strength. "Caroline, would you like some coffee?" Jennifer's voice came from the kitchen. She was no longer just a nurse, but a close family friend. "Thank you," Caroline smiled. As they sat on the porch with their drinks, Lily ran over. "Mom, Grandma says she'll make sandwiches for tomorrow's field trip." "That's nice," Caroline stroked her daughter's head. The structure of the house hadn't changed, but the atmosphere flowing through it had completely transformed. Victor's trial ended last month, and he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Ashley also received a 5-year prison sentence as an accomplice. After fully recovering, Eleanor decided to live with Caroline and Lily. Her hidden assets were plentiful enough to support the three of them comfortably. Caroline reduced her pharmacy hours and instead had started a long-held dream of a health education program for children. "Just think," Eleanor said, taking off her gardening gloves. "Without that child's special talent, I might not be here anymore." Lily's mysterious sense was now accepted as a matter of course within the family. Sometimes she would say she was talking to invisible friends, and Caroline no longer doubted that it was more than just a child's imagination. Meanwhile, at the state prison, Victor was spending lonely days. Ashley had completely cut ties with him, and his lawyer informed him he might lose all his assets in a civil lawsuit. He had few visitors, and his once confident demeanor was gone. Caroline sometimes thought about her former husband. The man she thought she knew during 10 years of marriage had never actually existed. Still, she had chosen to look forward and live on. "Everyone, tea time," Eleanor called. 3 generations of women gathered around the table, joined by Jennifer. Voices and laughter echoed in the garden. Lily suddenly stared at a point in the sky before smiling. "What is it?" Caroline asked. "Nothing," Lily shrugged. "I just felt like someone is watching over us." Eleanor took Lily's hand and gently squeezed it. "True family isn't just about blood ties," she said quietly. "It's about the bonds of protecting and loving each other." Raising her teacup, Caroline nodded deeply. A spring breeze blew through the garden, bringing a sense of new beginnings. Whatever might happen in their lives from now on, they would remain strong as long as they had each other. And Caroline now truly believed that sometimes, they might be guided by powers beyond this world's understanding.